Good morning. Day 24 of my 30-day health challenge. Sunday morning, and I've gotten up and weighed myself. So I know that from yesterday to today, I am down exactly 1 pound, from 138.6 to 137.6. That also brings me within almost a pound and a half of my goal weight, my 1984 wedding weight, which is 136. And then eventually, with the next 30-day challenge that I'll do, I would like to land between 132 and 136, giving me a 4-pound range of, wiggle room, because weight is not static. We don't weigh exactly the same from day to day. And I would just like to have that 4-pound range. So, stay between 132 and 136 is my ideal. I'm 5'5", so that's a very nice BMI range for me. I know that using a BMI chart is a controversial measurement, because if you're very athletic, then you don't look good on the BMI chart, and that waist to height ratio is a much more natural measurement, meaning if you have the waist to height ratio is, you should, your waist should only be half of your height, and that's a simple thing to figure out by, you can take your height on your, I stood up against a door casing and I marked where I was height-wise I was in bare feet, and then I took a string and I made it match my height, and then I folded the string in half and put it around my waist. And you want that string folded in half, which is half of your height, to be able to touch ends in the middle, and then you know that you have a healthy waist to height ratio. Anyway, on the BMI chart, for my height of 5'5", my weight range of a healthy BMI should be between 114 and 144. And so today, this morning, I'm at 137.6. So I'm a little further along on the green column on this chart, which I'll include on the screen. I'm, further to the right on the healthy BMI range. And at one point, I had gotten down to 125 pounds, but then I wasn't prioritizing protein, and I felt like I looked sort of skinny fat. Obviously I didn't look fat. I was skinny, but when I looked at myself in the mirror without clothes on, I could see that I didn't have good tone in my muscle and overall ratio of how my body looked. So maybe this time, now that I know that I need to prioritize protein in my meals, because of my age, I'm 61. The older you get, the more you should prioritize protein, so your body has that to break down for amino acids and rebuilding tissue. Maybe this time I will look better at a lower weight. We'll see. My glucose this morning was 90. Kind of surprised, but I think that goes along with the body is just dumping glucose, converting glucose from stored glycogen back into circulating glucose and using it up, because I wasn't providing a lot of energy in my food yesterday. I did prioritize protein, so I didn't have a lot of fat or a lot of carbs. And I guess that my meal choices yesterday, for the benefit of weight loss, were effective since I am down 1 pound this morning. Today, already this morning, I'm hungry, even with a glucose of 90, which is above my trigger, my personal hunger trigger on the app. I checked the app this morning and my personal hunger trigger has shifted down again by 1 point. So I went from a personal hunger trigger of 81, which I think I've had for about a week, down to 80. I noticed on my Dario app that this home screen had changed recently, and I wasn't paying much attention to it, and I didn't really like the look of the home screen. I haven't reached out to let anybody at Dario know that yet, but one thing I finally figured out this morning, or clued into, is one of the big changes is on the home screen, the A1C measurement that always used to be sitting there for me to see is gone. So then I went looking for the A1C measurement, and I will put up a chart for you on the screen here, a chart that shows a comparison of our average glucose reading to what our A1C would be if we were to have a 30, is it a 90, a 3 month, 90 days, a 3 month test, or a reading that could be done every 3 months called the A1C reading. And that reading shows you how glycated or sticky your blood cells are, which means that oxygen is not as easy to pass across the cell membrane. So your cells aren't being oxygenated very well. The stickier or more sugar-coated or glycated your blood cells are. So that's what the A1C test measures. And you want an A1C closer to 5 or below than you want 5 or above. The higher you get on the A1C test, the more sugar-coated, glycated, oxygen blocked your cell surface is. So anyway, I noticed that measurement was missing from my Dario app. So then I went looking, well, can I find my average blood glucose reading on my stats under Dario? So I did find it, and my average right now is sitting at 92. Well, on the A1C to blood sugar conversion chart that you can see on the screen, if you look across from left to right, and this gives glucose measurements in both milligrams per deciliter or millimoles per liter, which is useful because some part of the world use millimoles, some part of the world uses milligrams. My brain thinks in terms of the milligrams per deciliter range. So if my average right now, glucose average, is 92, then on the chart it's saying that if I have an A1C test done, that my score would likely be between 4.7 and 4.8. It used to be nice on my Dario to just look at the screen and say, and it would always show me what's your projected A1C reading. I have been as low as a 4.6, and I'd like to go back there, but you might be shocked to see that on the far left you can get readings of 4.0, 4.1, 4.2 for A1C readings, meaning you have an average glucose down between 65 and 79. Now, at one point, my glucose trigger in data-driven fasting was down to 74, which would have meant that if I had an average glucose reading between 72 and 74, my A1C would have been, my A1C test from the lab, a lab draw would be 4.2 or 4.3. I think I've been down as far as 4.6. Anyway, on this chart flowing across the screen, you will see the color coding on the chart associated with the color keys for your health, what you're doing to your health, down the right-hand side. And so my color coding right now is falling in the range of optimal. I'm doing optimal things for my health by keeping a handle on my glucose ranges. And if you know your A1C range, you can associate that with the color coding on the chart. And I've heard A1C levels that people thought that they were in good ranges, and I'm seeing the color coding is associated with, pre-diabetes, diabetes. It's dangerous for your health. It's definitely for your health, and you're being suicidal if you're up in those ranges. And the thing about type 2 diabetes, it's totally diet related and reversible. You can work on improving your diet and your glucose levels, and if you use data-driven fasting techniques of tracking your glucose and giving your body a little time for your personal hunger trigger, which the app will figure out for you, for your glucose to come closer to your personal hunger trigger, you'll be helping yourself a great deal. So I'm going to leave things there for right now. I need to shower and dress and get ready for church. And that's for this morning's opening of day 24 of my 30-day health challenge. After I was showered and dressed and ready to go, I started to put together some breakfast that I could have because I was hungry first thing this morning when I woke up. So I used the remainder of the peanut butter filled protein crepes. Now that peanut butter is basically a non-fat peanut butter because I used peanut flour and salt and some sweetener and water to make a peanut butter consistency filling for my protein crepes. Protein crepes recipe is in the description box, and the peanut flour purchase link, affiliate link for that, what I buy off Amazon, that's in the description box as well. I did chop up a handful of peanuts to sprinkle on top for more visual appealingness and for some crunch, texture change. And then I also packed a jar of celery sticks because of Jesse and Chauspei's teaching. And this is what my main part of the meal, the protein part of the meal, and the meal that had the energy in it, energy coming from the carbs with the bananas. That's what my meal looked like when it was ready to eat. While we were in the car, I ate my meal. I started with this jar of celery, and I thought to myself, it's both a drink and a vegetable. Because I drank the celery water before I ate the celery. And then I ate the celery before I started in on the peanut butter crepes. And that veggie starter is thanks to Jessie and Chauspei, the glucose goddess, her teaching. And she is linked in the description box, a link to one of her podcasts that she presents her information on, a link to her book, The Glucose Revolution, and a link to her website that gives a listing of all of the hacks that she recommends for improving your blood glucose by the order in which you eat your food. This was my second meal of the day. We went out to lunch after church to a small Italian family-owned restaurant that we like over in that area where our church is. I ordered the Cajun chicken over a bed of spinach. That's a salad that they have on their menu. I ordered the Italian house dressing, which is a tomato-based dressing. You can see that in the two little condiment cups to the right of the plate. I did not use that salad dressing though, and instead of that, as a salad dressing, I took the side that I did order that's at the top left. That is a side of Italian sausage in their marinara sauce. I took the Italian sausage slices and I added that to my salad, and the sauce that was still clinging to the sliced Italian sausage served as my salad dressing or my flavor add to the salad. That was my lunch, and the rolls that are peeking there at the top of the picture, I didn't have those. I drank water, and I had that vegetable-based salad with the addition of 2 kinds of protein coming from the Cajun grilled chicken and the Italian sausage slices that were in the marinara sauce. We're back home from church and from having lunch out, and now it's time for Sunday nap. That is one of my habits that I really look forward to each week, is just resting Sunday afternoon, taking a good book to bed, reading. So on Sunday morning when I get up, I don't make my bed because I know I'm coming back to it in the middle of the day to take a nice long Sunday afternoon nap. I thought about something that I did add to my meal after we left the restaurant. I carry chocolate. I carry chocolate in my purse. This happens to be a very fancy chocolate. I don't know how to say the brand properly. Who chocolate. It's a dark hazelnut butter chocolate bar that my daughter gave me when I was visiting California. She gave me about 3 different varieties of this chocolate and then a 4th chocolate bar from a different variety. So I carry chocolate in my purse. I don't go anywhere without chocolate. And after we left the restaurant, it just sounded nice to pull out this chocolate and have a little bit of it. So this container is supposed to be enough for 2 servings. Well, let me show you the inside of it. I guess it's supposed to be very fancy because there's a package inside of the package. And this was the chocolate bar. And then right now, what is left is half of the chocolate bar. So I broke off these 2 of these squares like this, and that's what I ate for my after meal chocolate. I almost broke off another set of 2 squares, and I thought, nah, I don't need to do that. I'm content with just that taste of these 2 squares. I really do like this version, hazelnut butter, but I doubt I would buy it for myself. I'm happy to be indulged by our daughter. So I'll put that package back in my purse so it's there for next time when I want some chocolate and I'm not here at home. And, oh, for giggles, let's see what the blood sugar number is. I won't turn the camera to it. I'll just go ahead and pause, take the number, and then come back on camera and let you know what it is. It was a nice number. I'll read all the numbers for today to give perspective. My waking fasting number this morning was 90, and then an hour or 2, let's see, 2 hours later, when I was ready to eat my meal in the car as we rode to church, my glucose was 86, and now, about 2 hours after starting lunch, my glucose is 96. So this is doing really well right now. I do expect my glucose to go up. Probably before we go back to church again this evening, I'll check it again, and I bet it will be higher. And I may or may not include that information here in this video. I am not wrapping up the video now. I'll go ahead and wait until the end of the day since it's just in the afternoon right now. But so far, I think I've done a fairly good job of filling in some details for today, for day 24. Oh, I can look at the Data-Driven Fasting app and see if there's any more information on here to share with you, any updated information. I think I did tell you that my personal hunger trigger has dropped to 80. And the daily lesson that's showing up right now for today is asking the question, how often do I have to test my blood glucose? And I'm opening the read more, and it's not very long. Again, it shows the chart of, well, you can't see the screen. I'll put it up on this screen so you can see the big picture of the 30 days and the 5 phases of the 30 days. The first 3 days of baselining to find out what your personal hunger trigger is, then hunger training, eating window, meal skipping, and consolidation. The answer to how often do I have to test my blood glucose is, for the most part, you should only test your blood glucose to validate hunger before eating. This could be as little as twice a day, or even less if you identify your main meal regardless of your blood sugar. Meaning if you're going to eat a main meal and you're not going to let your glucose number stop you from having that meal because it's part of your social life with your family, and then you're going to have a discretionary meal that you'll use your blood glucose trigger for to determine whether or not to have that discretionary meal and whether you should fuel during that discretionary meal, or if that discretionary meal should just be prioritizing protein and nutrients and not including much in the way of energy sources from fats or carbs. So and it also says we also like you to test your post-meal glucose during the baselining and your waking glucose at the start of all of this process. Sorry, I should start that sentence over. We also like you to test your post-meal glucose during baselining and your waking glucose at the start, during, and end of the eating window stage. So, but you can see in the chart the checked boxes showing you what would be suggested for you as testing at what point in the process. So even if you didn't understand that sentence I just read, you could visually see it. And it says, the table below shows the recommended minimum effective dose of testing and tracking that we recommend during the data-driven fasting 30-day challenge. Additional blood sugar readings are optional. Some people like all the data, but we eventually recommend adopting the minimum effective dose of testing to guide your eating schedule. So that's the update thus far. Time for some reading and napping. I'm up for my nap and it's almost time to leave for church. And I went out into the kitchen to, make sure I was ready to walk out the door. And when I woke up from my nap and when I went out to the kitchen, I had food foraging thoughts. This food foraging thinking has nothing to do with being hungry. As a matter of fact, I still feel somewhat filled from lunch. I'm not full, but I can tell that my lunch is still sitting there. I haven't digested it. There was nothing wrong with the food and I feel fine, but what I was thinking about was there are Concord grapes, or a grape like a Concord grape in the refrigerator. That sounds refreshing and cold to me. It sounds appealing. There's a watermelon in there. That sounds appealing to me. And I would like to eat those things. But I have absolutely no hunger. I haven't checked my glucose since waking up, but I'm pretty positive it's gone up since I took the nap because my body's breaking down that food. Breaking down food means you're putting more glucose into your bloodstream, so I'm pretty sure that the glucose is there, higher than when I started taking my nap almost immediately after getting home from eating out. And I don't think it's a matter of I didn't have enough protein in my meal, so I don't think my body's looking for more protein because the peanut butter protein pancakes that I ate this morning on the way to church had protein, and then the lunch that I had with the Cajun grilled chicken and the Italian sausage slices. There's protein in both of those things. So I don't think it's a matter of not enough protein. Maybe, I was going to say maybe I didn't have enough greens, but then my salad that was at the restaurant, that was a bed of spinach for my salad. So there's a good amount of greens. I think it's just that the cold, refreshing fruit, the grapes or the watermelon, sounds good to me and I'd like to have it, but I don't need it. And so I'm going to practice one of Jen Stevens' book titles, Delay, Don't Deny. I've mentioned her 4 book titles in the description box and how I use them. I use them as my self-talk. I can delay some of the things I want to eat and just not deny myself those things, but delay. So when I'm feeling snacky but not hungry, which is right now really, I can delay and not deny myself. I get to feast without fear. I get to eat, big meals if I want. I don't have to think about food being off limit to me. And I get to fast, feast, and repeat the process. I enjoy fasting. I enjoy the feeling of being fasted as much as I do the feeling of being feasted. And then her last book is called Cleanish, which I eat mostly cleanish. Most of my food is healthy. I try to choose organics. I try to get in a lot of nutrition through making good food choices. So Jen Stevens' 4 book titles have been useful to me to run those titles through my head as action points. And I told her that when I interviewed with her 2 years ago, I think it was. So, no, not so. Not so. Stop it. I will just delay having the grapes and the watermelon. I'll push them off until tomorrow. They'll be there and tomorrow, and I can enjoy them as part of whatever meal I put together tomorrow. Well, it's 8:30. I'm ready to call it a day from day 24 of my 30-day health challenge. I did not end up eating the cold fruit in the refrigerator that was appealing to me earlier this afternoon when I got up from my Sunday nap. I will share with you my glucose numbers through the day. I started with a waking glucose of 90, and before I was ready to go ahead and have my breakfast, which was eaten in the car on the way to church, because we have a 40 to 45 minute drive, I took my glucose and I had an 86. Then I ate again after church. We went out to lunch and I took my glucose about an hour actually before we went out to lunch. I must have had a break somewhere where it was convenient for me to test. And so my glucose was 103 an hour before I ate, which meant I was nowhere near back down to my personal hunger trigger of 80. But I chose a lunch focused on protein and nutrients, and I held back on the fats that would have been in the salad dressing. And now I'm sure that the chicken, the Cajun chicken, and the sausage slices obviously had fats in them, but I wasn't adding fats to my meal. And the sauce that the Italian sausage slices was cooked in, I didn't use the sauce. I pulled the meat slices out of that side dish of sausage and marinara sauce, and I put the sausage on my salad and ate that, and that picture is on the screen. I took my glucose after getting home, and my glucose was down to 96, even though I had eaten lunch about an hour before that. Then I took my glucose when I woke up from a nap. I took it around 5 p.m. It was at 104. I took it at 7:39 and it was 87. And right now at 8:33, a few minutes ago when I took it, it was 89. I'm doing well on my glucose numbers. And so I'll see what my morning fasting glucose is tomorrow morning. But I made it through the rest of the afternoon, even though I did have some food foraging thoughts I didn't eat. And I feel better now in my digestion than when I woke up from my nap and I was still digesting lunch. I looked at the dashboard on the Data-Driven Fasting app to see if there was a new daily lesson that cropped up today. And there has been. So the question asked there is, can I fast when I am stressed? And it's a very short lesson, so I'll go over that with you. It says the extra adrenaline and cortisol from stress can cause your blood glucose to rise regardless of what you eat or don't eat. Stress can also cause your lizard brain to become troubled, so you will comfort eat to prepare for an emergency. As well as waiting to eat, you can lower your blood glucose by doing whatever works for you to relax and de-stress. Deep breathing, exercises, meditation, a walk in the sun, sleep, relaxation, etc. Don't be surprised if actively managing your stress also helps you lose weight. So that's the end of that answer to that question. Stress will raise your glucose. I saw that very clearly when I had been fasting, maybe practicing fasting and feasting. Maybe it was 6 months into the process, and I had a trip to go on to meet some family members or meet some people that were going to become family members because of an upcoming wedding. Our two families would be joining. And so I was basically a house guest at these people that I was complete strangers with for the weekend, but I was very excited to meet them. It was a happy stress, but I watched my glucose kind of rise and be higher that weekend, even though I was still practicing my fasting. And so I just thought that was interesting. I've seen my glucose rise from being ill. When I've had a cold or some kind of a virus, my glucose will rise even though I'm not eating. The body compensates when we are sick or under stress, and it will raise our glucose numbers. I'm going to include 2 new links in the description box that haven't been included in the previous description boxes. And basically pointing you to 2 things you can do for your best advantage to being able to trim down and have more success in trying to lose weight and become healthier. The links that I'm adding, let's see here. I'm just going to make sure I have this correct here. One is called the protein leverage hypothesis. It's a link to a 10-minute video between Marty Kendall and Ted Naiman, and they're sharing some research from 2 gentlemen that have been researching protein for many years. And the other link that I'm sharing is an article about low-fat diets versus low-carb diets. People have their pet diets, and they will argue about which is best. So you can have the low-fat crowd, which was very popular back in the 90s when Snackwells was around. Those were a disaster for people's health. And now the pet diet seems to be keto, where, people go overboard on fat maybe. I am going to put a link to an article that says that both diets have been studied and both are equally helpful in losing weight. And that goes along with Trim Healthy Mama, where you you alternate between eating low carb, which are the S meals fueled with fats, or eating low fat, which are the E meals fueled with carbohydrates. And basically eating on either end of the spectrum, low carb or low fat, is one of the things that Marty Kendall is promoting. This article will help explain that. So I have reached the end of my day, and I'm happy to have arrived here. I'm ready to go to bed. I'm glad that I didn't succumb to the food thoughts that I had about the fruit in the refrigerator. I will enjoy that tomorrow, so I'm practicing delaying, not denying myself. I will have that stuff. And there we are, end of day 24 of my 30-day challenge.